Welcome to Divine Therapy Inc. Before we begin this deep immersion into the heart of movement and purpose, I want you to find a place of absolute and total sanctuary. This is a journey for your soul, a long and peaceful walk through the landscape of your own potential. Ensure your environment is quiet. Let your phone stay silent. Let the world outside wait. Adjust your position until every muscle feels supported, until your body feels weightless, as if you are floating on a cloud of pure intention. Close your eyes and visualize a soft, emerald light beginning to glow at the base of your spine, rising slowly through your heart and into your mind. Today, we are speaking to the part of you that feels stuck. We are speaking to the part of you that feels paralyzed by the size of your dreams, and those who believe they have lost their spark of motivation. This is the story of a man named Bram and the mystery of the lazy giant. Bram lived in a valley surrounded by mountains that were so tall they touched the very ceiling of the sky. In this valley, every person was born with a giant who walked beside them. This giant was the physical manifestation of the person's potential, their will to act, and their spiritual strength. When a person was motivated and in flow, the giant was strong, upright, and could move boulders with a single hand. When a person was creative, the giant danced. When a person was courageous, the giant stood as an unbreakable shield against the wind. But Bram's giant was different. Bram's giant had laid down in the middle of the road many years ago and simply refused to move. The giant wasn't angry, and he wasn't mean. He was simply exhausted. He had become so heavy that his body had started to sink into the soft earth of the valley. Over the years, thick green moss had begun to grow over his stone-like limbs. Vines had wrapped around his fingers, and small birds had built nests in the crevices of his elbows. To the neighbors, the giant looked like a hill, a permanent part of the landscape. But to Bram, the giant was a constant reminder of everything he wasn't doing. Because his giant was asleep, Bram felt a sympathetic heaviness in his own bones. He woke up every morning feeling as though he were made of lead. Bram had big dreams. He wanted to build a magnificent bridge across the great river to connect his village to the sea. He had the blueprints. He had the knowledge. But every time he looked at the blueprints, he would look out his window at the massive, moss-covered giant blocking the road, and he would feel a wave of hopelessness so cold it froze his heart. He believed that he needed a massive explosion of energy to wake the giant up. He believed he needed a miracle. He spent years waiting for a perfect day of inspiration, a day where he would wake up and suddenly feel like a hero. But that day never came. Bram was a prisoner of the Great Leap theory. He thought that if he couldn't do everything at once, there was no point in doing anything at all. One morning, as the mist was curling around the giant's knees, a traveler with a very small, grey dog walked past Bram's house. The traveler saw the massive, stone-like creature blocking the path, and he saw Bram sitting on his porch, staring blankly at his own shoes. The traveler didn't offer a grand speech about the glory of work. He didn't tell Bram to just do it. Instead, he walked up the porch steps and handed Bram a single, smooth, white pebble. He said, "Bram, the mountain is too heavy for a man, and the giant is too heavy for a shout. You are waiting for a thunderstorm to wake him, but a giant is not woken by noise. He is woken by the sound of a heart that has stopped being afraid of the small things." The traveler pointed to the giant's hand, which was buried deep in the mud near the garden gate. "No one is too weak to move a single pebble, Bram. If you want the giant to stand, you must stop trying to wake his head. You must start by moving the dirt from his little finger." Bram looked at the pebble in his palm. It was light. It was insignificant. He felt a flash of anger. He thought the traveler was mocking him. How could cleaning a fingernail move a creature that weighed as much as a mountain range? But the traveler simply smiled and walked away into the mist, leaving Bram with the silence and the stone. Desperation is a strange fuel. Late that afternoon, Bram walked over to the giant's hand. He knelt in the mud. He took a small trowel and began to clear the dirt away from the giant's smallest fingernail. It took him only 5 minutes of light work. When the nail was visible, he took a cloth and wiped it clean. He expected nothing to happen. He expected the giant to remain a hill. But as he stood up, he felt a tiny, microscopic spark in the center of his own chest. It wasn't a roar of energy, it was a quiet, rhythmic hum. It was the feeling of a done task. For the first time in years, Bram didn't feel like a victim of the giant. He felt like a caretaker. The next day, Bram returned to the hand. He didn't try to lift the arm. He didn't try to move the legs. He simply polished that one fingernail until it shone like glass in the morning sun. Then, he moved to the next finger and began to peel away the thick moss. He worked for 10 minutes. That was all. He felt the tomorrow monster whispering in his ear, telling him that this was a waste of time, telling him that he would be dead before the giant ever stood up. But Bram ignored the voice. He focused only on the inch of stone in front of him. He realized that when he focused on the inch, the mile didn't seem so scary. This became Bram's secret ritual. Every morning, before he did anything else, he would go to the giant. He stopped looking at the bridge. He stopped looking at the blueprints. He stopped looking at the giant's massive, closed eyes. He only looked at the moss, the vines, and the dirt. On the 5th day, he cleared the giant's wrist. On the 10th day, he cleared the forearm. He found that the more small work he did, the lighter his own body felt. He wasn't waiting for motivation anymore, he was creating it. He realized that motivation is not a prerequisite for action, it is a byproduct of action. A strange and beautiful thing began to happen beneath the surface. As Bram moved the small stones and cleared the tiny patches of moss, the giant began to change color. The gray, dead stone began to take on a warm, living glow. And then, there was the sound. It started as a low vibration in the ground, a deep, rhythmic thrumming like a distant drum. Bram realized it was the giant's heartbeat. The giant wasn't lazy, he was overwhelmed by the same, all or nothing, thinking that had paralyzed Bram. The giant was waiting for Bram to show him that the work was possible by breaking it down into pieces that a human could handle. By the 21st day, Bram reached the giant's shoulder. He spent the entire morning cutting away the thick vines that had acted like ropes, pinning the giant to the earth. As the last vine snapped, the ground beneath Bram's feet began to heave. It felt like an earthquake. The giant's hand, now clean and shining, twitched in the mud. Then, with a sound like the cracking of a glacier, the giant sat up. He didn't stand all at once. He sat up slowly, shaking off the remains of the forest. He looked down at Bram, his eyes like two golden suns. He whispered in a voice that sounded like a summer storm, "Thank you, Bram. I lay down because I thought the bridge was too big. I thought the weight of your dreams would break my back. But when I felt you moving the small stones, I realized that we don't have to build the bridge today. We only have to be faithful to the pebble." The giant stood up, reaching his full height, his head disappearing into the golden clouds of the afternoon. He reached down and offered his hand to Bram. Together, they walked toward the great river. They didn't build the bridge in a day. They didn't even build it in a month. They laid one stone in the morning and one stone in the afternoon. Bram stopped feeling the pressure to be a giant himself. He realized that his job was to be the small mover and let the giant handle the heavy lifting. The bridge grew, inch by inch, stone by stone, until it reached the other side. Bram was no longer the man who stared at his shoes. He was the man who had woken a mountain by moving a pebble. If you are listening to this today, and you feel like Bram sitting on your porch, staring at a project, a habit, or a dream that feels too big to touch, I want you to take a deep, slow breath. I want you to look at your giant. You are likely trying to wake him with a shout. You are likely waiting for a bolt of lightning to strike you with inspiration. But the divine is handing you a pebble. The tomorrow monster wants you to focus on the bridge because the bridge is far away and intimidating. But the pebble is right here. What is the fingernail of your dream? What is the one thing you can do in the next 5 minutes that is so small it feels almost silly to do? Is it writing one sentence? Is it clearing one corner of a room? Is it drinking one glass of water? Do not judge the smallness of the act. In the kingdom of the soul, there are no small acts. Every tiny movement is a signal to your giant that it is safe to wake up. Every small win is a drop of oil in the machinery of your motivation. Imagine yourself now, standing before your own sleeping potential. See the moss of someday and the vines of maybe covering your strength. Now, see yourself with a small, golden brush. See yourself cleaning just one tiny spot on the hand of your potential. Feel the texture of the stone. Feel the weight of the brush. Notice how good it feels to stop worrying about the summit and start caring for the step. You are not moving a mountain today, you are simply declaring that you are no longer a prisoner of the mud. Take a long, deep breath in for 4 seconds. Hold it for 4 seconds, feeling the stillness in your center. Now, as you exhale for 8 seconds, visualize the lead melting out of your muscles. Release the shame of the months you spent sitting on the porch. That time is gone. It was just a season of rest. Today is a season of the pebble. You are the gardener of momentum, and momentum is a slow-growing tree that eventually becomes an unstoppable force. At Divine Therapy Inc., we see your giant. We know he is not dead, he is just waiting for a partner. He is waiting for you to show him that the work can be beautiful if it is small. Do not ask for the strength to finish. Ask for the courage to start. You are not a failure because you have been still. You are just gathering the wisdom to know that the smallest step is the most powerful one. Stay in this space of gentle movement for a long time. Feel the vibration of your own potential beginning to hum in your chest. See your giant beginning to open his eyes. You are not stuck, you are just in between breaths. You are capable, you are moving, and you are exactly where you need to be to take the first step. Thank you for trusting us with your journey. You are the master of the small stone. You are the awakener of the giant. Carry this pebble in your heart and walk into your day with peace. Until next time, stay in the movement and remain in the light.